In this video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about which bosses that you should be killing to upgrade your gear and make great money as a mid-level player just getting into PvM. These bosses are incredibly good money, however, you do need a few things to keep in mind, which I'm going to be talking about just as we get started. But if you do feel like you're in the position of, hey, I've just started doing PvM, I've got some basic gear, I want to learn, and I also want to upgrade my gear and make a good amount of money, then this video is for you. By the end, hopefully you will have some more sort of information on how you should be looking at the whole entire goal, and also which bosses you could actually take advantage of to make a good amount of progress pretty quick. Keep in mind the date of recording this video is the 19th of the 11th, 22. So of course, if you're watching this a long time in the future, prices may have changed, so make sure you check those. Finally, a whopping 71.4% of you guys watching my videos aren't subscribed, so do hit that subscribe button and check you are subscribed if you already think you are. Okay, let's go. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to give you a few points of views that you should be taking into account when you are looking to upgrade your gear and start out in PvM and make a good amount of money. And then also, I'm going to talk to you about the individual bosses that at this point can make you a hell of a lot of money. And for each one, I'm going to give you a quick few pointers so you can get set up and on your way to each of those bosses. Not a full-on guide, just a few things to keep an eye out for, and then also, of course, explain where the money is coming from at that boss. So with that being said, I want to quickly mention the things that you should be keeping in mind. Now, you are a mid-level player, you are someone who is starting out in PvM. Even if you are a high-level player, maybe your account is maxed, if you're just getting started, you don't have a ton of money, it is worth keeping in mind that if your base gear looks anything like the recommended setups that I would have you guys use on screen right now, or maybe you have something just a little bit better or a little bit worse, then you should not be chasing after these big 1 billion GP drops, because there's a good chance it's going to take you way too long to kill these bosses that drop that sort of stuff, which will actually hold you back from getting gear upgrades a lot quicker. So now that you've seen the recommended levels of gear that I'm going to be talking about in this video, obviously you can keep in mind that if you went from having something like a Ganodermic armor set with an Elder Wand and a Virtus Book, you're looking at around about 30 to 40 million GP. So keep in mind that if you get a single drop that is worth anywhere from 10 to 20 all the way up to 100 million GP, you are making a hell of a lot of progress in comparison to thinking, hey, I only made 50 mil. These other players are making 1.5 to 2 billion GP here and there in one drop. That is what I want to do. You are looking at this wrong, and you need to keep in mind that you are at a lower level and a lower position in the game. You do need to work your way up the ladder and get the stuff that is big to you. If you have a 40 million GP bank or a 50 million GP bank, and then you get a 50 million GP drop, well, guess what? You just doubled your bank. That is absolutely huge. So that's the first thing and the first point of view I wanted to show you guys, because it is very important, and too many people get stuck on the whole, right, I want to do Raksha and get a greater ricochet, but I only have Ganodermic armor and a tier 85 wand. Yes, you can do Raksha. It is probably going to take you a lot of time because you don't have tier 99 prayers, you don't have the Elder Overloads unlocked, you don't have Great Concentrated Blast, and many other upgrades to get as well. You have to build your way along this path, and then eventually all this stuff becomes easier and more efficient, and then eventually you'll be able to get those big drops that you are dreaming of getting. At that point, those big drops won't feel so big anymore because the upgrades that you are buying will probably cost more than what one of those drops is. Which takes us on to our final point that I want to mention before we talk about the bosses. If you are at 50 million GP, you have a freaking ton of upgrades to get before you start looking at these big expensive upgrades. For example, you may not have the better versions of the overloads unlocked yet. You're going to want to unlock those and then level up your Herblore that bit more to unlock that. You may not have your tier 95 curses unlocked. You definitely want to make sure you get those done too. And then you also want to get things like codexes for Greater Concentrated Blast, for the Mazcab bleeds, all of this sort of good stuff. Then you also want to get things like summoning up to make sure you have things like a Ripper Demon, or maybe you need yourself a Yak in certain situations while you're learning. And then also, of course, you've got other bits of gear. You got to work towards so many little things. It's going to take me an hour to list off all the things that there is. Okay, that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but you get the point. So let's stop rambling on now and talking about this stuff. You obviously need to start off towards the lower level to make it more efficient to yourself. And these are the bosses that I would suggest you learn. Alright, so to get started with the bosses, we are going to talk about them in the order I would suggest you learn them. However, one quick mention first, if you are learning and you are brand new to PvM, you are super early on. The Arc Glacor isn't the first boss I'm going to talk about. However, I would suggest starting at the Arc Glacor to learn mechanics. You can turn them on and off here, you can toggle them, and you can make it easier for yourself to pick up stuff and learn it one thing at a time. The Arc Glacor is a great boss for learning out and practicing certain things and mechanics, so I would suggest starting here if you are trying to figure out any specific mechanics. However, However, the first boss overall for making money, that is our main focus for this video and upgrading your gear, is going to be Vindicta. The reason I would suggest killing Vindicta first is Vindicta in God Wars 2 is fairly a lot easier than killing the Arc Glacor with all of the mechanics turned on. So let's talk about Vindicta. Vindicta is a boss that lives in the God Wars Dungeon 2. She has a dragon that she flies around on during the fight. However, this fight really isn't that difficult once you have a little bit of gear like the ones recommended on screen earlier. The reason you'll be coming to this boss is because you can net a good amount of money if you do get lucky chasing the Dragon Rider Lance. The Dragon Rider Lance is worth 33 million GP as of right now. 33 million GP for someone starting out with the gear sets that I showed you, which were around about 30 to 40 million GP each, is almost doubling your entire bank. You can think of getting a hell of a lot of upgrades from this if you just get one of these drops. And then not to mention as well, you also have the chance of getting the Crest of Zaros. The Crest of Zaros right now is price checking between 30 and 39 million GP. So the price is varying a little bit, but 39 million GP for getting one drop, of course, is even better than the Dragon Rider Lance. So you have two drops here that are really highly priced. You can chase after these, and getting one of them is going to give you a lot of money and upgrades along the way. Also, the Vindicta is probably easier, like I say, than the next boss, but you're also going to put into practice a little bit of mechanics and dealing with stuff to make sure these kills are efficient. So, through this fight, you're going to want to pay attention to the fire on the floor when the dragon flies overhead. The dragon will fly overhead, put a line of fire down the floor, it's big and purple, you can't miss it, step out of it, and that's it, carry on killing Vindicta. Once you get Vindicta's health down to a certain point, basically what's going to happen next is they are going to jump on the dragon, and then go ahead and hit you with melee, then ranged, then melee, and then fly away and put another line of dragon fire towards your character. Now, this is all they're going to do for the rest of the fight, so it does get quite easy to deal with and predict once you understand how it works. If you don't deal with it properly, you can take a lot of damage, but that's what I'm going to tell you now. Keep Protect from melee on, make sure you stay out of any dragon fire, and then other than that, just keep hitting Vindicta. If you have melee prayer on, tank the melee hit. Just before the ranged hit is going to hit you, you can use resonance with your shield because you want to have a shield everywhere that you go PvMing in the future. Using resonance on the ranged hit while protecting melee is going to give you a nice juicy heal, and then after that you're going to get hit with melee one more time, which you're going to have protect from melee on, so it's no problem. Go back to doing as much damage as you can, they will fly away and they will repeat their rotation. However, when this ranged hit comes around, you can either prayer flick from melee to your ranged prayer to make sure you deflect as much of that damage as you can, or you can use debilitate or devotion and also protect range as well to completely basically remove any damage you're going to take in this situation and make your life a lot easier. Then every second rotation you'll use resonance and just go back to killing the boss. These boss kills aren't going to be stupidly quick with this level of gear. However, like I say, you get one good drop here, you are going to see a good upgrade. So if PvM is the way you want to focus on doing this and upgrading your gear this way, then Vindicta is absolutely a great boss to start. Through these bosses, I won't mention a gold per hour expectancy, as people who are learning are going to be doing completely different kill times to what I can even work out. And then also as well, you are going to have different amounts of gear for everybody else too. This is all being taken into account. I can't give you an accurate GP per hour, but I can tell you that PvM is a grinding game. You either get really lucky and get the drop nice and early on, or you kill the boss many times until you finally get that drop. It's worth mentioning as well that Vindicta does have a reputation value. If you can increase your reputation at this boss, you can also increase the drop rates of your rare drops. Moving on from Vindicta, you've practiced using things like resonance, you've got a little bit better with mechanics and stuff, you probably increase your DPS a little bit. Maybe you just want to skip Vindicta altogether. Well, that's fine. The next boss I'm going to talk about, as you already know, is the Arc Glacor. This is going to be in normal mode with all mechanics turned on. The reason for this is this boss drops a book worth 92 million GP right now. 92 million GP for a normal mode boss is an absolute crazy good deal for you to kill this boss and get the book. Just get the freaking book. Of course, you could go dry here still, keep this in mind. However, the Arc Glacor does have a lot of mechanics that are going to take time to practice and get into. That is why I've placed this boss second. However, if you want to just come here first and just toggle on mechanics while you learn it, Keep in mind that you cannot get the Book of When, the Scripture of When, unless you have all mechanics enabled. If you don't, if you take any of them off, you will not have access to this book. That being said, you have 2 drops here that you're going to want to chase. The first one being the Scripture of When that we've already talked about at 92 million GP as of making this video. The next one is going to be the Leng artifact. The Leng artifact is untradeable, however it will allow you to upgrade gloves like the Nightmare Gauntlets, the Kerapac wrist wraps, or the Gloves of Passage into enhanced versions, which are tradable. Now, if you take, for example, Kerapac wrist wraps, they cost a couple of million GP, if that. Once you add the Shard of Leng to this, or the Leng artifact to it, you will be able to sell these for around about 50 million GP. As you can see, this is a great amount of profit. However, you will have to check at the time which gloves are worth the most in profit from when you make them. I do believe it is the Kerapac ones, but you will just have to check. Just check a price check on both of them, see how much it costs to get the base one, and then see how much you'll be able to sell the upgraded version for, and work out the difference. So another boss with 2 absolutely game-changing drops for newer or beginner players into PvM who have pretty mediocre level gear. Grabbing any of these drops is going to make a huge difference to your banks as of this point, and so I would suggest that you do work towards learning this boss and giving yourself that opportunity to do so. Of course, you're going to have to do some grinding, you're going to do some practicing, you're going to put time in and improve your kills to make it more efficient. Of course, that is how this works. That is how PvM works. Everybody was at your point before at one point in their time. Keep in mind that not everybody that's at top tier PvM right now was always at top tier PvM. They all started out with nothing, the same as you did, and they have to grind along the way to get there. Trust me, keep grinding out the bosses, you will get these big drops, you will get your upgrades, slowly but surely. This is the best part of the game in my opinion, so don't rush it, enjoy it. Okay, so the Arc Glacor has 5 mechanics. You can toggle these on and off during the normal mode, and this is how I suggest you learn the boss. Learn each mechanic individually on its own, how to deal with it by itself in normal mode. All normal mode kills forever will be safe. So if you die here, don't panic. You will just go outside. You won't lose any gold whatsoever, which is absolutely insane. And of course, you can practice again and again and again, while also making money when you are successful. The rewards you get are scaled down when you toggle off mechanics. So if you have 1 mechanic, you are going to be making a lot less money per kill than if you had all of the mechanics or 3 or 4 mechanics enabled. But absolutely learn all the mechanics individually, work away that way, and then move your way up to all of the mechanics where you can finally beat the boss and have a good chance at those big, nice, juicy drops. It is also worth mentioning that you can get the Nihilus drops here as well, which are used to make the tier 92 or the tier 95 Lengs, which while can't be traded, eventually you will be able to save these up for when you can do hard mode to finally make those weapons. Okay, so with the Arc Glacor out of the way, let's talk about the next boss to add to your goal list that could make you an absolute fortune very quickly. Next up, we are going to talk about Kerapac. Now, I have a good history with this boss because he is absolutely stingy as crap with me and gives me nothing. That being said, on a normal person's luck or good RNG, you are going to be making a great amount of money per kill once you factor in the fact of the drop rate of the greater concentrated blast. Now, most people using magic are going to want to have access to the greater concentrated blast ability anyway, so unlocking it yourself is definitely going to be something that saves you a lot of stress, as this thing is priced between 165 million GP and 175 million GP. That is a stupidly expensive codex to get. However, it is absolutely worth every penny, and that is why it's so high. I do not see this thing dropping in price anytime soon. It has been around this price for a long time. It is not going to shift. That being said, this boss is a big step up from the Arc Glacor, even in normal mode. Normal mode, Kerapac is still a lot of damage to take. Kerapac deals a load of damage during the first 3 phases and even more during the final phase. You're going to be tested on using your defensives, using positioning with Surge, and then also using things like an extra action button to get the most out of the fight. These are a lot of things to learn, and I wouldn't suggest just going from Vindicta to the Arc Glacor full mode immediately to Kerapac in normal mode and then expecting to be, this is fine, nice and easy. Some of you will be able to do it, some of you won't, so you'll just have to practice along the way, killing other bosses too, the low level ones and God Wars 2 as well, maybe do some more Arc Glacor, all that sort of stuff. But Kerapac in normal mode will be the next boss that you want to set your goals on to be able to defeat, because he can give you this good amount of money. Now, he can not only drop the actual codex as well for the Greater Concentrated Blast, but he can drop the Scripture of Jazz. This is sitting now between 16 and 20 million GP. This is absolutely great. Like, this is still a good amount of money to get. It is not anywhere near the Greater Concentrated Blast Codex, but it's still good. He also drops the Kerapac wrist wraps, which are sadly only 1.5 to 5 million GP as of making this video. But that being said, if you do get any shards of Leng from the Art Glacor, you can use those to go ahead and upgrade them. And there you go. You don't have to buy them from the Grand Exchange. But that's probably the only thing you're going to get out of that. During the Kerapac fight, you have 3 phases where he will use 3 main mechanics. One being Shatter, where you have to stand either underneath him to cancel the entire mechanic, or just move to the side after using Freedom to make sure you don't get hit. The second one is a Dive, where he will go into the air and then land on top of you with melee damage, and then if you don't move away from him, you will keep taking melee damage over time. So if he dives on top of you, you can either surge as his staff goes forward, dodge it, or you can just walk out of the way once it lands on top of you, and you'll go ahead and move on to the next dive. He will do 3 dives, and then after that, he will do a Lightning Storm. Each phase has its own extra lightning walls, so phase 1 will have 1 lightning wall, 2 will have 2 lightning walls, and phase 3 will have 3 lightning walls to deal with all at once. These are nice and easy to deal with. Just use Reflect and Debilitate on Kerapac, and then surge through them as best you can. If you use Reflect and Debil, you won't take anywhere near enough damage to die, making this phase nice and easy. You have an extra action button which you can use to take a snapshot of time where your character is right now. It will store all of your cooldowns, all of your adrenaline, and all the abilities that you use afterwards will be refreshed back to that point, meaning you can use the Time Warp at 100% adrenaline, drop a Sunshine or Death Swiftness or your Berserk, and then immediately, once it's come back, you get your 100% adrenaline back, you'll get your Sunshine back off cooldown, but you can throw out a ton of thresholds and big damage, and then repeat the whole thing again. Taking advantage of this is absolutely important to making a good amount of money here. You will have to practice this and get used to it, but you will do, and you'll be absolutely fine. Phase 4 is a different thing altogether. He's just going to beat the living crap out of you. Very, very hard. Very hard. Kerapac phase 4 in normal mode, he will get enraged and he will just deal a really high amount of magic damage to you very quickly. I would suggest bringing a shield for this bit, or a defender, and then using things like Devotion, and then Reflect, and Debilitate, and also Revenge if you're camping a shield or defender as well, to make sure you can still deal damage, and just do as much damage to the boss as you can, while of course praying Protect from magic. Not to mention you can also use Resonance to get a nice big heal as long as you drop your prayer here, and then from then you just want to get his health to 0 before yours hits 0 instead. Sounds easier than it is. Trust me, when you're learning, this guy's going to piss you off. However, this boss is 100% worth your time learning, especially as a mid-level PvMer, because once you've got the gear for it, which is, you can do it in the gear I showed you on screen earlier, you are going to be able to make a good amount of money here. And if you grab yourself a Great Concentrated Blast, you either use it because you're using magic, or you get yourself a 150 plus million GP cash injection to get a lot of the stuff. That could be your Ripper Demon unlocked, that could be your Herblore to Elder Overlords unlocked, that could be many different things. It could be tier 95 curses, it could be getting the next weapon altogether, like you could get tier 90s from ranged. There's a lot of things you can get with 150 to 170 million GP, of course. Now, these are going to take time to get. All of the bosses in this list are going to take time to kill and practice and finally get a good drop from. But if you are insistent on doing PvM to get your way through and practicing PvM as well as 1, and 2, making up a good amount of money and upgrading your gear, then these are the 3 bosses that I would suggest you kill. And there you have it, my favorite 3 bosses and most recommended 3 bosses for mid-level players or people just getting started in PvM and want to learn and improve their gear nice and easily. These are the 3 I would suggest you do. These are the recommendations I would give to anyone wanting to make a good amount of money with pretty average gear, as every single drop from these bosses are going to make a good amount of progress on what you've already got. You need to keep in mind that you're checking it from where you already are and not thinking, hey, I want to kill Raksha and get a Grico when I've only got Ganodermic armor. It's just not realistic. If you can kill Vindicta in, like, I don't know, 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, and you can do that consistently, you're going to make more money there than if you went to Raksha and got 3 kills an hour because you died quite a few times and because your kills are like 12 to 15 minutes long. You're going to get a lot more out of doing Vindicta in the long run than if you just stay at Raksha. Now, you could get stupidly lucky and get a Grico at Raksha on your first ever kill. It could happen. It definitely could. Or you could be like my friend Chax and go over 2,000 kills and not see a single greater ricochet. Now, I know what I would do. I would stick at these 3 bosses, I would upgrade my gear, and then once I become more efficient at these high level bosses, I would move my way up the ladder. I would kill things like Araxi to get a spider leg, I would kill things like Nex and hope to get a taller plate body. I would move my way up the ladder again, start running elite dungeons in groups, and then once you've got more money, then you just keep soloing them and you just grind away at all this gold and money, and that is how PvMing and upgrading your gear works in this game. That is just how it is, unless you want to do other things like skilling outside of PvM and all that sort of good stuff, merching, flipping. There's loads of ways to make money in this game, but if you are insistent on PvM, if you're insistent on practicing and getting better at it, then these are the 3 bosses you want to set your goals on. I hope this video was helpful to a few people at least. If it was, then make sure to leave a like. Do subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. I understand that many of you guys who clicked the video may be high level players looking to make money, and you may be thinking, hey, I already knew this. Yeah, you probably maybe already did, but trust me, there will be some players out there, mid-level players just starting to get into PvM, and that's who this video is for. So hopefully it did help you guys out. That being said, I have nothing left to say other than I appreciate you all watching, so thank you all so much, and I will catch you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.